This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode, why should you hire an ERP selection consultant?
Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Why Should You Hire an ERP Selection Consultant? Sean Windle is one of our speakers for today. Sean is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Sean has almost 30 years of experience in the enterprise software industry, helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, The ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with tens of thousands of downloads at this point, and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. And you all are going to see a new face here today. Yay. Ryan Baca is our other speaker for today. Ryan is a director here at ERP Advisors Group with over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software and change management industries. He has worked as an associate principal and managing director in the Oracle ecosystem, as well as launching a business unit to expand ERP implementation services to include Sage Intacct, while simultaneously helping the Microsoft business unit double its year-over-year professional services revenue. Ryan has an extremely unique perspective on this topic, so I'm really excited to hear from him today and see what he has to say. On today's call, Sean and Ryan will outline the reasons why you should hire an ERP selection consultant and how they could mean the difference between project success and failure. Welcome. Thank you both so much for joining me today. Ryan, how are you feeling?
Thank you for having me. I feel great.
Yeah.
Yes, beautiful day. Birds are chirping. Let's go.
Yeah,
Good.
Exactly.
It's very sunny out, fortunately, here in Colorado. And yeah, we're excited to have you. I know it's always nice to have new faces on these calls. And as always, if you have questions, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat. Good old Will Dutton's here to answer those and make sure that we know that they're there. So Sean, just to kick us off, why is it so important to get your ERP selection right?
Oh, ouch. Boy. Yeah, I'm thinking I know Ryan's a good man. He's a really good. Lucky if you get him on a project, because he just came off a call where, the first thing that I would say to answer your question is there's so much involved with ERP implementations, as we all know, and we talk about it all the time. But boy, if you don't get the right software, you are hosed. It's like a non-starter. So if you get on the wrong platform, there's like 1,000% chance that as you go through and start an implementation, you can totally talk about this a lot, Ryan. There's going to be things where you're like, wait a minute, that's not what I thought it would do. Or wait a minute, I needed to do more. Or wait a minute, that wait a minute moment, we always go, ugh, when that happens. But it really is the difference between success or failure is selecting the right software. And you're not just selecting it for today and what you know about your past. You're selecting it for what you think you're going to need in the future. You have to predict. And if you pick the wrong platform, thinking of the client that Ryan was just talking to, we did get them onto a product that is quite nimble and is configurable and even customizable in the right way. And as they've gotten into the product and understood it more and more and more, they want more and more. And it was sort of addressed. It was addressed during the sales process, but we get through training and testing and training, I should say. It's like, oh, I needed this and this and this. And thankfully, they're on the right product for that. So that's huge.
Right. And Sean, we learned an interesting statistic a couple weeks ago when we were working with one of the partners, solutions providers that we work with. And I think it was about 26% of an organization's people touch their ERP system. And so beyond just the fact that it needs to do what you do, like it's at the core of what your business is doing. So if you get the wrong solution, how are people going to react to that?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's so bad, right? Because those 26% of people are like running the business side of the business, right? They might not be field people, and even they probably touch it a little bit, but they're folks that they're in it day in and day out too. Like every once in a while, maybe somebody comes in and does an approval or whatever, but it's really like the core of the business operations, and that 26%, maybe it's more, maybe it's less for some businesses. These are people that are using the app every freaking day. So if it doesn't work for them, you're going to hear about it. But again, it's not even just about today. It's about the future. It's a decade out. I mean, we really try to get software in place for about a decade for clients, right?
Yep.
It seems impossible with all the changes and everything else. But again, if you have the right solution for what you needed in the past, for what you need today, what you know, and then you can predict for what it should do in the future, the next 10 years. I think some people have said we're all going to lose our jobs for AI, but we'll see. I think we all have a little more responsibility than just eliminating everybody's job. But ultimately, I mean, that's why it's so important that we get the right software.
Definitely. And fortunately, lots of the platforms are built for 10 years out now, not like they used to be. But
right.
Ryan, that leads us into the next question, which is what happens when a business gets their ERP selection wrong?
Yes, the doom and gloom scenario that unfortunately is all too common.
Yeah.
So as Sean mentioned, choosing the right solution is paramount. And when you get it wrong, it has some pretty stark consequences that unfortunately we've seen again and again and again and again. Some of those being that it doesn't meet your needs, right? When you buy something, you want it to work. And if it doesn't work, you're not too happy. These systems aren't inexpensive, and so there's a loss of financial resources, but there's also loss of time and the amount of time that it takes for people to implement these tools. There could be a lack of user adoption, where you buy this fancy new tool, but nobody's using it because we didn't plan that adoption process. And there could also be business disruption, right? You distracts from your customers, from how you interact with your vendors. And probably most important to those that are making these purchasing decisions could be the loss of a job if you don't get the selection right. So for executive sponsors that don't take the selection seriously and are prudent about that decision process, unfortunately, sometimes that could be the end of their career.
Well, I mean, you have a prospect right now that is in a very interesting predicament, right? Where they know they need to change their apps. What they have today is not working. They got to do something, right? So now they're talking to different vendors, they're getting data, and it's the end of the year, and you're going to get a great deal on this app, and it's like, yeah, you should find out what that deal is. Like, you need to know what's going on, right? But that risk of losing credibility, right? You buy something that is a great deal, but does it really fit for the long term? Is it really the right app for the long term? Even if you go through a process, and we've done this before where it's a why not whatever, like, okay, we're going to just focus on this particular app, but you're going to do the diligence. See, I think what most people don't understand, but you do because you're listening. Thank you very much. I'm not just pointing to Will, who's looking out the window, pretending like he's flying. I know where you're at. Will flew by the office the other day. He told, it was all safe, wasn't it? Anyway, Will has his pilot's license and he flew by. It was so cool. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
We're not talking Superman here.
We're not talking. No, in a plane. In a plane. I swear to goodness, he was in a plane. But to get back to the point is, even going through the process of actually, like, we call it a needs analysis, right? But it really is having individuals, the stakeholders, see for themselves and be part of a process and evaluate the software and have some decision making in it. Yeah. They're going to feel like, because it's going to be hard later, they're going to feel like, well, at least you asked me, right? And if you just buy something because it's cheap, man, it's just risky. It's just very, very risky.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point there. Yeah. If you make an individual decision, it's going to be individual accountability. And so really having that comprehensive buy-in even through the decision process, I think, is very important.
That's a great point.
Well, and contracts are easy to get out of, right, if you do it wrong?
Yeah, right.
That was like sarcasm for anybody who didn't catch it.
That was sarcasm. There's so many analogies I could have thrown out, but my wife would have yelled at me, so I'm not going to.
Goodness. Yeah, and I mean, some of them, even if you buy the wrong modules, you have to keep paying the same price, and maybe they'll give you something else. But suddenly you're locked in, and that's not a dig at the software vendors. They have to make their money some way, right?
That's right.
But that's
and you signed the agreement. I mean, remember when you saw that agreement on page 3? There was that little line that said, "See, blah 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 terms of services on this page," and you go to that web page, and there's 50. Like, there was one vendor in particular who's quite large, probably one of the largest ERP vendors, and you look at their terms and conditions page, and there's probably 200 agreements, and your order form says you agree to those terms by signing this order form. Wait, what terms? And you go to the page, and there's 200 agreements. Now maybe 180 of them don't even matter for you, but then there's still 20. You can't get out of this stuff. Like, it's, you're right. That's a good point.
Right. And I think now we're starting to touch on really what the next point is, and I think what most of this call is going to be about. And Sean, I'm going to have you start this, but Ryan, please also jump in during the discussion. What role or roles does an ERP selection consultant fill?
I think everybody's been hearing me talk about that for years.
Yeah.
I want to know what Ryan thinks, because
Yeah.
Ryan, you've got this great background. I gotta brag about you a little bit, because now I do have to tell everybody, Ryan and I are secret brothers from the same mother. I'm just kidding. Not really. No.
Breaking news.
Breaking news,
Breaking
everybody.
news.
You can tell. No. Ryan and I started our careers on the exact same day in Denver, downtown Denver, Colorado.
I liked how Rebecca gave me 5 years younger than you.
I know.
So
That was
I'll
perfect.
take
I
that.
saw that too.
I was going based off the information I have been given.
Yeah, he's trying to make himself sound younger. That's what that is. But Ryan, you have such a great background, because not only did you do Accenture, right, and change management, big systems implementations, but you also worked with some of the largest Fortune 500 companies. You've worked in a lot of professional services. You've worked on multiple sides. You've worked with implementation partners. You've seen different apps. Like, and when we were chatting, wherever that was, whatever conference that was, you were like, I really want to do advising. Like, why was that? Why did you really want to do it?
Well, I think at the core of consulting, you should be advisors, right? There are consultants that are very good at, a very specific thing. Those are called technicians.
That's right.
But true consultants really understand business. They understand the process, and they've probably got some miles on the tires there, that they've experienced a few of these things that they can truly advise. So, for me personally, I was at a point in my career where I have implemented literally hundreds of different systems for different industries, and with varying levels of success up and down the board. And boy, I was looking for something that was really to take all those lessons and be able to really help others avoid the pitfalls that I've seen, directly. So that, in my mind, that's kind of the essence of advising. And one of the reasons I wanted to join this fabulous organization, because that's what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Yep, that's a great point. It really is. I think it's a privilege. It's hard, and it's not for everybody. This isn't the job that everybody's suited for. To be totally honest with you, I mean, we've had heartbreaks, and people come in and like, oh, this is great, and they do great, and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to do something simpler, and I'm like, I understand, because it's hard. I have many friends that I've grown up with, we've grown up with over the years, that have built huge businesses, and they're hundreds of people, and we're a great firm of about 40 people. We're one of the largest pure ERP advisory firms in the world, believe it or not, that just does this, because it's freaking hard.
It is.
And our people are so committed. They have to be so committed to helping. That I mean, you get like, I have like marks on my back. Thankfully, he gets the marks now, from data migration, client-side data migration. I know we could do it better, believe me, but man, stuff's hard, and nobody's thinking with that. And the implementation partner's kind of like, it's kind of your problem. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe they'll help or whatever. And client's like, I don't know what to do. And so you just get in this muck, where you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get this done. And these projects go on and on. I mean, our projects get delayed. They go over budget, but they always go live successfully. And that's the thing. So, I mean, that's why I've stuck with this for, 15 years. Come next week, we have our big anniversary party tomorrow. If you're in Denver, y'all, come by. It's going to be a rave. Just kidding. Not really. We're going to have charcuterie, though. I love charcuterie. It's like a big table of charcuterie.
Every rave I go to has that.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you do at a rave.
Yeah.
I'm old. I don't know. They're like ERP rave. Just kidding. But, it's so...
Rave, charcuterie,
ERP, it all fits
come
together.
check it out. Now I'm interested.
Now you really want
Yeah.
to know. It's got everything. It's got ERP. It's got charcuterie. Anyway, that's for you, Erica. But the bottom line is that it's really hard. And it's such a higher level of responsibility, I think, that it's not for everybody. And our people are like, they're like gold. Like, to me, like, I think about you and your willingness to help out and go that extra mile and take all the stress and pressure and on behalf of the client, and they would be alone with that feeling, and they would like attack like vicious dogs against the implementation partner and the software vendors, except they need to own their part of it too, right? So even our implementation partners, our software vendors, are very grateful when we're part of a project, because they're like, hey, you guys are like, you see the whole thing. We call it pan determined. You're helping everybody. You're not like focused on, oh, whatever the client says is right, or whatever the implementation partner says is right, or the vendor. No, like everybody's right, but like, how do we actually get stuff done, right? And that's what I think that differentiates us as an advisory firm, because we just like, I really want to say something different, but I won't for the call. We get stuff done. That's what we do.
Yeah, and I think, Sean, just to drill into that a little bit more before we come back to Ryan with some of his unique experiences in the positions that he's held, because he's held all of them, it seems like. Digging more into the needs and communicating with the vendor. I think so many times we have people come to us, and I would say they communicate that they're in one industry, and suddenly we dive in and they're not necessarily in that industry. So how do selection consultants really not only help them identify and document their needs, but then ultimately communicate those to the vendor?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great question. We just talked to a prospect recently. We were both on that call, and they ended up not selecting us. And when they told us that, I actually felt kind of bad, because they are so complex. And they think they're simple, right? Because they're like all the rest of their businesses that are similar to them, and they go to trade shows and they've known them for decades. And it's like, oh, well, these other guys just use this. We can use that. And we're like, wow, your business is very vertically integrated in one particular industry, if you know who I'm talking about. I did get that book back, by the way. So that was a good book. But you know, that clients in general, I mean, think about this. If you've been through, like, I mean, I talk to people sometimes, like I was at a conference the other day, and this lady was like, oh yeah, I love ERP. And I'm like, okay, first off, you're crazy. Like, anybody who says they love ERP, I'm like, okay, you're just crazy. But she's like, oh yeah, you know, I've done like 10 or 20 implementations. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gauging. She's like 45. She started when she's 25, 20 years. So she's done like an implementation a year. Probably not, right? But so let's say it's 10. And so she knows a lot. And that's true. She does know a lot. But like, we're in 20 implementations right now, right? Across 40 people. So we have the benefit of like the collective mind sees all these different things and best practices. And then we put together a methodology. But to get back to this company that I was just talking about, it seems like, well, they picked another app maybe 5 or 6 years ago because it was focused on their industry. And it did make sense for one of their businesses. They had a very difficult time implementing it, not because of the software, but because of the underlying data structures were an absolute mess, right? It's a very complex business. And so now the app doesn't work well. We're going to go change. Maybe we'll keep this other one. But, you know, you've got to know enough of what you need to be able to go to the market to tell them, this is what I need. Don't wait for the vendor to ask you or to tell you, oh yeah, I know what you need. That's not true. They don't. And it's, you know, it's not like these software vendors, we talk about this all the time, salespeople, implementation partners, they're good people. They're trying, I mean, they're putting their kids through college, and they're good people trying to do the right thing. Most people in technology, I think, want to help. That's why they get into it. But they're also going to be like, you know, you just kind of need to get into something. I'm good. I got a good package. I'll get you through it. I'll sign off. Okay, good. Salesperson goes away, right? So it's dangerous. Like, it's really, if you don't know what you need, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, dating. Again, I couldn't go there. Sorry, Erica. Like the first marriage, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but you know, you're like, you don't really know what you need and what, and you do the best you can with it, and that's great. You make the best out of it. But when you're talking about ERP, like, it can bankrupt a company. Executives get fired. People have, like, you know, the DTs where they're, you know, like the anxiety levels is so freaking high, and it's like, come on, take the extra time. Just take a month to figure out with all of your team, this is what we need, right? And get everybody agreeing, like, yeah, that's really it. It may be what you thought it was. It never is, but I have to say that to be nice. There's always something more. There's always some little clever thing Carly on our team always comes up with these interesting phrases. She had one this morning. I can't remember what it was. I think about it like the Elan, right? Like there's this piece de resistance that pops out in our needs where we're like, whoa, like the client you have in New Mexico, great company, unbelievable multi-generational firm. And we're trying to help them really figure out what they need. And it was like, you could see when it kind of locked in for people and they're like, oh yeah, that's why we got to do this. Yeah. Let's now go to selection.
Yep.
Man, I could just preach it. Do you want me to get on a soapbox or something?
Yeah, we'll
Do
get you
have
one next time, and we'll have to move
Please?
the camera around.
Would you please?
But yeah, and then I think that also translates over into the demos, right? Because then you're actually seeing what you need to be seeing, and you're actually interacting with the system. Because at the end of the day, they're all scripted. But
Right.
if you're not driving the script,
Oh.
you're not going to get what you need out of it. And I think, Ryan, you have a very unique perspective. I mean, you've been a client, you've been an implementation partner, now you're an advisor. And what differences have you seen selection consultants make on projects in each of those roles?
Well, yeah. At the core, we're matchmakers, right? So you talk about how important the needs analysis is, the software selection, yes, all very important. And then there's the implementation. And throughout those process, we're essentially being a matchmaker. We're saying, hey, we want to understand your business, right? Because how could I match you with the right software if I don't understand, at least have a fair level understanding of your business? And then we're selecting the software. Again, matching up those requirements against the functionality of a particular tool or tools. And then you get into implementation, and our matchmaking changes a little bit. Now it really shifts to the client and the stakeholders that have been involved. And what the matchmaking that is done then is then typically working with an implementation partner. So depending on what software is selected, and so we're not the experts in that software per se, right? We're not behind the curtain, turning the levers and doing the configuration, doing the customization. But what we are doing, because we've seen the implementation process work with a variety of different softwares, what we are doing is we're connecting people. We're connecting people from the implementation partner to the clients and making sure that we are being as efficient as possible through that implementation process. And speaking of efficiency, and you mentioned demos, right? So because we understand the requirements, we're also being able to make any demonstration or walkthrough or training or testing scenario as efficient as possible because we know what the client needs and we can translate that to the implementation partner. One of the challenges of being an implementation partner is you come in after some salesperson has sold the software.
Right.
And they may do a 30-minute KT with you, and then you show up at the client, and you're like, okay, tell me about your business, right? And the client's like, well, God, I just told your salesperson all about the business. And so with an advisor who's been through that process, and we do this, we literally do this. We spend time with the implementation partner before we even do a kickoff to say, okay, gang, this is what we accomplished during the needs analysis. This is why you were selected as the provider. And so it's going to be really important to hit these key points when you talk with them. This is what's important to our collective client's business. And that just makes things go so much smoother and much more efficient, really through every stage of the implementation.
Definitely. And Ryan, you did mention something else about just kind of one of the most frustrating realities around an ERP project for the implementation partner. Can you touch on that really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, the frustrating reality is that they don't necessarily know which resources to go to for what information. So they show up and it's all new. And, you kick off and everyone does a meet and greet and nice to meet you. But some of these projects, you may have 50 people on the client side that, and every business is different and they have different roles and responsibilities. So having an advisor to help navigate, okay, well, this is really who you need to talk to, and they're going to give you this information, and tell me the information you need, and I can, get you to the right person. Because sometimes the client doesn't even know.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what you get is potentially 20 people on the call when really you need 3.
Yeah.
And so that's the efficiency that I'm talking about, and the ability to bring some of those matchmaking skills for the benefit of really both the implementation partner and the client.
Yeah. And I think Carly and I sit down every week and we write some vendor advice. Sometimes other people come in and we'll add some things, but I'll throw ideas at Carly, or she'll have something that comes up. And I think one of the most valuable pieces that I've gotten from her, and I hope the vendors feel the same way, is the customization of the demos that selection consultants can provide. Demos, it keeps coming back to that for me, like in my mind, where I've seen a lot of value, because you can customize it to the not only, hey, if they're a food manufacturer, you're actually showing them the functionality they would need instead of, hey, I'm going to show them a different product that maybe they're not in the process, but also their vernacular.
Yeah,
and
it's huge.
There are things that words and things that they may not that they may use that may not be industry standards that the implementation partner doesn't necessarily use in their day-to-day. And so I just see so much value in what you guys do. And I think you've touched a lot on the implementation partner side, but do you want to talk a little bit about your experiences as a client?
As a client, well, yes. So my experience as a client is a bit unique in that as a client, we worked with, and I won't say the name, but it was a Big Four consulting firm to implement SAP in this case. And
The DTs.
Shutters.
and the implementation went live, and they spent $20 million on the implementation.
Yikes.
And then they realized nobody was using the tool. And so in this particular case, it was a scenario where we had to go back with the implementation partner and say, okay, gang, what did we do here? We configured a tool. It was based on some requirements.
Right.
But then nobody told the users. We talked about the user. That, by the way, that 36 or 26% number sounds very low to me in terms of using the ERP and whether they use it directly or not. There's an impact. In this case, we were it was a large production company that I won't tell you what they produce or it'll give it away. But they the users themselves, and I'm talking about people that were on the production line. They needed to enter information in the system, and they just weren't doing it because they've never done it before, and
my gosh.
nobody actually told them. Somebody told them they needed to do it, but they didn't tell them why they needed to do it. And ultimately, that feeds the ERP. So you had a system that was operational, but it wasn't being used, and therefore all of the benefits that were laid out were not being realized. So you had to go back and retrain and help people understand the process and help them understand, because people generally want to do the right thing. But if you don't tell them the right thing, or that, hey, you're really helping out the organization because we're getting our costing information better. We're understanding, where we need to invest more money in the business. Ultimately, it may help you because we're understanding if we can get you better productivity tools. So those are just a few examples of some of the experience I've had from the client side.
I think to that point too, you said something earlier that I don't think we've ever said this in any of our calls, and I've been on all of them, so I know this. That idea of the implementation partner is the technician. So you can't forget that when you're talking to implementation people, demonstration consultants, solutions consultants, demo jockeys, I don't care what you call them. Salesperson's different, right? But those technical people that are running around, they're technicians. They're very much focused on, I have a tool, you have a problem, I'm going to fix it, right? But to your point, this is something that, advisory firms, right? I'm very proud of what we do. The other guys, I'm not so much, but us, I am. But for us, we look around at that. You really want the technician to do the best job possible. Our job is to enable the technician to come in, build that production front end so that the people that haven't entered data before have a UI, user experience thing that they like, and they use it and they're ready for it. And we flip the switch and then boom, they're ready to go. The technician built this beautiful app. It's not just the technician's fault. Rarely is it the technician. I say that because we have one project where the custom development's driving us crazy right now. Ooh. Anyway, sorry, Shelby. I love you, Shelby. Thank you for everything you're doing for our clients. Shelby's on our team. She's a godsend. You're lucky if you get Shelby. Anyway, but the thing is that the technician needs to be told, go talk to this person who really knows what's going on. Listen to what they say. Then they build it. Then you tell the technician, here's the person you need to review, do the walkthrough. Here's the person who needs to test this. Here's the person that needs to train on this stuff, right? The technician's just building stuff. That's what they do. All those other things, the client's just supposed to do it, except nobody tells them. And so they're like, oh, well, the vendor's in here and they're going to take care of all this stuff. And they don't. They just don't even know. It's almost like I hate to say this, but it's like a comedy of errors when you look at the 5 or 6 or 8 things that happen that lead to this ultimate demise of this huge project that, there's tons of money. That's big, but it's more about the people that are involved. And that's why, 15 years ago today, not really today, but next week, May 20th, I was like, that's it. Like, I'm done seeing failed implementations. That I just couldn't do it. I didn't want it. It was out ethics, and we were involved. I say you and I, because back at our old firm, huge mammoth projects, hundreds of implementation people, and then they flip this, or they like pull the switch, pull the plug out of the project, or they go live and it doesn't work. And I was like, this is like criminal. It's so bad. It's out exchange that it's at the criminal level. Like, I'm going to pay you $20 million, you don't get anything. Like, that's not okay. And so that's why, as an advisory firm, like, our clients, don't get me wrong, they don't like us sometimes. I know you're a good man for taking.
But they always love us.
What you take, yeah. But they will get a live system, and they don't know what that means. They just don't, and they don't have to, because we're the pros. It's like a really amazing surgeon that does things to the human body that just nobody else can do. That's what we do for our clients. And yes, they pay a little more. They, it goes a little longer. But man, I've seen so many of these things that, and so many situations that could go so bad. I've seen people in the hospital from bad projects. We've seen, vendors, and they start doing lawsuits and stuff. And I'm like, that's not going to happen, because you're both at fault. Yeah. We've just seen so many situations that happen that are so easy to be solved because we have the solution for it, right? It's like walking around with a bad knee and you're like, oh, I can't golf, I can't run, I can't drive. Like, this is a terrible way to live, right? Okay, there's surgeons that fix that stuff, right? That's what we do. We fix those things so you don't have to go through that pain. You're still going to go through some pain, but it's going to be like, it's like a good kind of pain. And there is a difference.
Yeah. And that's why they call it an ecosystem, right? Everybody has to be doing their part in order to make it work.
Yep.
And Sean, just to round out the call, and again, Ryan, feel free to jump in at any point. What types of companies benefit from hiring an ERP selection consultant? Because some don't. Like, we're not right for everybody.
That's right. That is a really good question. And I'm going to pretend like I'm not going to look at my notes for that one, but I'm going to have to. No. I think the first thing you put on here is you really do need to be of a certain size. We do have many companies that call us. We had one company that called us the other day. They're about $5 million in revenue. And this guy was awesome. He was wicked smart, the CEO. He's like, there should just be an app that does this. And I was like, brother, you're right. Now, but whatever you do, don't go write it and pretend like you're going to go sell it, because that's not the business you're in. Like, it seems like this stuff should be easy, but it's not. But when you start getting bigger, more volume, more profitability, frankly, a few more people around the business, like we have a $10 million business that you're working with, they're ready for it. They went through the pain of QuickBooks and Fishbowl and like, okay, all of our data's unstructured and da-da-da. But you really got to be a good size. I think that range is about right, that 20 million plus,
Short answer is everybody would benefit from an advisor, right? But the reality is, for an ERP, large ERP implementation, there probably is, a range that makes more sense than others. However, even the smaller companies, sometimes they just need a word or two of advice from an expert, and we're happy to do that. It may not be as involved, but we've got clients that they just don't know what they know, and they just want an hour or two a week to just, hey, this is what's going on. We can help with that.
That's right.
But for those larger, what I'd consider mid-sized companies that are maybe transitioning from one ERP to another, that's really the sweet spot where they can get a lot of the benefit from, our 40-plus consultants.
Yep. And if somebody's made it this far on the call, again, I always think about people on the treadmill or their bike, and definitely for those that are live, thank you for sticking around here for this long. But it's the key thing is, you have to know that you don't know. If you think you know, you will never hire us. So, and we know that, like, we're watching you. And if you're like, oh yeah, my friend said I should call you and I know what I'm doing. And we're like, oh yeah, you know what you're doing. You go out there and go talk to some vendors and then call us and see how that goes. Seriously, don't even fight it. Don't even try to sell it because you're not going to buy it. But when people come to us and say, I've done this before, it was hard, I didn't like it, I didn't know what I was doing, we got through it, but I really want somebody who knows what they're doing, right? You don't know. That is actually a really high awareness characteristic, right? It's much easier to be in delusional, right? But when you're like need for change, like a demanding improvement, I've got to do this, right? That's a no-brainer for us for sure. But even if you're starting to just kind of question, like, should I change? Should I not? I mean, we've got free introductory services. You'll get on a call, I'll get on a call. Adam will get on a call. Erica will get on a call. We got more of us getting on calls now to just help people, just help them even just sort of sift through. And sometimes we do say, you know what? Just go call this vendor and that vendor. Tell them that that ERP Advisor sent you so we can get the referral fee. I wish. I'm just kidding. We still don't take the referral fees. It does actually help us to send business to partners so that then when we need something from them later, we can say, guys, remember, we did this other deal. But we know the great partners out there that we are, like you said, the matchmakers. If you're a smaller company, we're probably going to send you to a smaller implementation partner that focuses on you. We're not going to send you to a big implementation partner that's not going to give a damn about you, right? Right. So, we're going to figure out what's right for you, but you have to be willing to get help. And if you're not, don't, go talk to vendors and get confused and then call us.
I live by the phrase, the more you learn, the less you know.
It's
and
true.
I think that more and more people, if you can just settled in and like, it's so hard to swallow your pride. Let's be real.
Right.
And you think it's so easy, but as you learn more and you realize how complicated it is, it becomes a little easier to be
I'm sorry, I have to say this for you. I wish we don't have that. Can you go get that diagram? I'm dead serious that she did.
the GP to BC.
The GP to BC.
Go get that
yes,
download, yeah.
please. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Charlie.
you. Thank you, Charlie. Like that, what you just said there is so important. And this is the role that you play in this organization. And everybody on this call needs to hear this. I mean, I know you know this. But there's so many complexities with every single software vendor, and you have really come on, Charlie, come on in. There's Charlie.
Charlie, everybody.
Yeah,
Welcome
Charlie.
to the pod.
Thank you,
Welcome
Charlie.
to the pod.
Give it to her.
To me. Okay.
Yes, you. So Rebecca has been doing a ton of research on all of these legacy vendors and what they're doing and what they upgrade. And look at this diagram. I love this diagram. That looks, it's simple, I'm like, maybe we need to bring her on the consulting side, but then Adam's like, no. But this diagram just is a very simple way of saying, depending on what your needs are, this is what you should do. That's it. That's all it is, right? But to codify that, do all the research, understand what's really going on with GP. And, we get calls from vendors. We've gotten hammered of recent, right? We're like, hey, you can't say that blah's going to be deprecated. It's going to go away. We literally had somebody say that recently. We're like, you know what? You're right. We're going to change the title. It's the right data, but it was totally right. So the time you put in to understand these apps is just, it's so valuable to so many customers out there because now they're like, I know, right? We've always talked about that this firm is built in knowledge. The more knowledge we can give our customers, the more understanding is built, the more reality they have, the more affinity they have for the software, the more willing they are to, put the kids' software games aside, or softball games aside for the summer for the damn go live. I hate to say that, but because they love it and they're doing the right thing. So that knowledge that you're putting together is just extraordinarily valuable. I could keep talking about that, but I should probably.
I just want to say one thing on that. Our clients are really smart.
Yes.
They're really smart about producing products. They're really smart about providing services within their industry. And it's okay if they may not know everything about ERP. That's what we're really smart at.
Right. That's what she's for.
What?
That's what you're for.
Yes, that's why I'm here. It's my job to learn those things so that you don't have
true.
to take the extra time to do it.
It's true.
I'm one of the crazies who loves ERP that Sean was talking about earlier in the call. But anyways, I'm going to wrap this up just because we're starting to get to the end of our time here. But thank you, again, everyone who joined us. Thank you, Ryan, so much for your willingness to be on the call and join our craziness.
Yes.
And thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, of course.
And
I love it.
Charlie for the
And Charlie
guest.
for doing
And
all
a
that.
guest appearance by Charlie.
That's right.
And guest appearance, yes.
And Will just for being Will.
He's
Go
always
on.
here. But yes, and please let us know if you have any questions that we can answer. I know even if you don't send them in the chat, we're more than willing to respond. Lots of you have my email from the call details, so all you have to do is hit reply, and I promise I will get back to you very quickly. And be sure to join us for our next webinar, which is scheduled for Thursday, June 5th, ERP Transformation Upgrade or Overhaul, where we will divulge how the specialists at ERP Advisors Group help our clients answer the age-old question, should I upgrade or completely replace my ERP? Please go to our website, erpadvisorsgroup.com, for more details and to register. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large-sized businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equate to millions of dollars in software deals each year across many industries. This has been the ERP Advisor. Thank you again for joining us.